Stargate SG-1 had plenty of plot holes and contrivances that frustrate some viewers even to this day. But in a way, those things are a big part of what makes it so enjoyable. What's with all the planets trekked by the Stargate program's A-Team, SG-1, looking so Canadian? Okay, in the real world, the entire show was filmed in Vancouver, and there are only so many ways to make a place look otherworldly, but still, John Godetsky, the visual effects supervisor for seasons 1 and 2, and the rest of the VFX team tried hard to find locations close enough to the show's sets that still looked interesting, but at the end it was still Vancouver. There was only so much they could do.
Do better. The door's behind you.
Speaking to The Companion, Godetsky admitted that Hudson Hickman, MGM's vice president of physical production, asked them to vary up the looks of the alien worlds, recalling, he basically said, "Can we not go to the rainy forest planet anymore?" And so we really started struggling to create locations that were not just in the forest. While the team searched far and wide for locations to stand in for settled planets like the Tolan homeworld, and actually found some cool sites like the sulfur pits that served as the landscape for P3X-562, the SG-1 still mostly visited forested planets. If you really think hard about it, it makes some sense considering the requirements for human habitation and the fact that Goa'uld are the main gate users at the beginning of the series, and Goa'uld tend to inhabit human bodies. But that's a lot of justification for a universe of planets that look like Canada clones.
I doubt they speak English. Hello.
He does.
Many viewers have pointed out how ridiculous it is that nearly every group of aliens SG-1 encounters speak English. It's pretty dumb, but the truth is that the production demands of the series and the 45-minute running time per episode didn't allow time for SG-1's resident translator, Dr. Daniel Jackson, to learn a new form of communication every week. Many of the aliens the team comes across are humans brought to another planet by ancient Goa'uld to serve as slaves, so you could argue that this explains English being passed down, as well as the fact that the show's aliens usually look like humans. However, the Goa'uld didn't know of the English language until Earthlings made contact through gate travel, so they couldn't have compelled their slaves to learn the language. When Stargate Atlantis premiered in 2004, the exploration team made contact with a race of humans who spoke fluent English, so it wasn't something specific to the Milky Way galaxy. Frankly, there's no good explanation for the galactic prevalence of English in the Stargate universe other than the fact that it made the storytelling easier. Captain Samantha Carter is a brilliant astrophysicist and engineer who worked on the Stargate program and helped discover how to use the gate to reach other planets.
That's a result of the compression your molecules undergo during the millisecond required for reconstitution.
Oh, here we go.
Throughout the course of Stargate SG-1, Sam becomes one of the most important people on Earth as a specialist in understanding alien technology, both in a theoretical and practical context. But think about that for a second. It's already a lot to be a specialist in those things alone, but Stargate SG-1 tends to designate anything even remotely science-related to Sam's big brain and bigger expertise, which doesn't make a lot of sense. It also doesn't make a lot of sense that, with all that on her plate, she'd have so much time to go adventuring rather than doing research in the lab.
Find me an anthropologist that dresses like this and I will eat this headdress.
In the Season 1 episode, Brief Candle, O'Neill is infected with nanites that age their hosts to death over 100 days, and Sam, who happens to also be an expert in nanotechnology in her spare time, leads the effort to save him. Then there's the Season 4 episode, Serpent's Venom, in which Sam, although she's not a mathematician that we know of, manages to catch a tiny mathematical error at the last second when working to activate a space mine.
Inventing technology with this level of sophistication would require a zero.
Why?
You just trust me, it's a math thing.
There are many more examples of Sam's lightning-quick expertise in a multitude of scientific disciplines throughout the show, which makes her basically a human supercomputer with an impossible breadth of knowledge, but hey, good for her. In one of the best Stargate SG-1 episodes ever, Season 3's Pretense, SG-1 is contacted by the Tolan, who have come into possession of a Goa'uld prisoner known as Chlorel. The team knows Chlorel as the Goa'uld currently inhabiting their friend and ally Skara from Abydos, who's also Daniel Jackson's brother-in-law. The Tolan decide to hold a trial to determine Skara/Chlorel's fate, and Skara chooses Daniel, and Jack if you're keeping score, to represent his interests. Apparently, Daniel is the social science expert on the team, in the same way Sam is the hard science expert.
Daniel was a scientist. He sneezed a lot. Basically, he was a geek, sir.
Daniel is a linguist and an archaeologist, a not uncommon mashup of specialties. But he's weirdly good at all of it. There's no Earth language he can't immediately identify and translate, and there are almost no alien languages that he can't ultimately decipher as well. On top of this, he has an encyclopedic knowledge of every ancient civilization, event, and archaeological discovery. Aside from this, Daniel also serves the team as the resident expert in ethics, philosophy, anthropology, and even psychology. It's all ridiculously too much for one lone human brain. Despite the fact that ballistic weapons are relatively primitive compared to the weapons used by the advanced civilizations the team encounters in the Stargate universe, they are, in practice, wildly effective throughout most of Stargate SG-1 and Stargate Atlantis. Jaffa, the servant warriors of the Goa'uld, wear heavy armor and chainmail in combat, but it's useless against Earth's assault rifles. The Wraiths are super-powered life-sucking beings with vampire-like strength and speed. But after the first season of Stargate Atlantis, in which it took quite a bit of firepower to take down a Wraith, they fell pretty easily to the Earthlings' super basic weapons.
I will pledge my allegiance to this world.
I'm just not sure that's ever going to be enough for them to trust you.
Teal'c was Apophis's first prime when he decided to defect to Stargate Command and Earth's people. When Teal'c liberates SG-1 from prison with his staff, he establishes a preference for the weapon that lasts through most of the series. The Goa'uld are scavengers. They've made do by stealing tech from others and modifying it to their purposes. And yet, they arm their fighters with staff weapons. Teal'c is one of the greatest Jaffa warriors alive, so yes, he can occasionally wield the staff weapon to good effect. But most people who use staff weapons are not Teal'c, meaning most people who use staff weapons have terrible aim and can't confidently wield the heavy sticks. While Jack and Teal'c use the staff weapons to blast a hole in a building housing prisoners on Chulak, the staffs are never that effective again.
This is a Goa'uld Zatnyukatel.
Right. Let's call it a Zat gun, huh?
The Goa'uld also arm themselves and their Jaffa with Zat guns, which are actually very useful. Zat guns have 3 layers of function. The first hit from a Zat gun causes extreme pain and knocks out most targets.
1 shot hurts him, 2 shots kill him. The 3rd shot
Disintegrates him.
Oh, great.
Zat guns are meant for shorter range combat, where shots can be fired in quick succession. But how difficult would it be to create a 2.0 version that works over longer distances? The Goa'uld are scavengers, yes, but they have scientists and weapons specialists. They still need to be able to alter scavenged technology in order to use it to its greatest effect. Zat guns can literally erase bodies from existence. Why would anyone use anything else? In the Season 5 episode Meridian, Dr. Daniel Jackson successfully prevents a nuclear accident on an Earth-like planet called Kelowna. In doing so, he's exposed to extreme levels of radiation and dies.
When the mind is enlightened, the spirit is freed and the body matters not.
You're talking about ascension.
At the time of his death, a glowing white light ascends from Daniel's body, and audiences are meant to understand that Daniel has ascended, just like the ancients once did. Yay that his consciousness lives on, but an important rule of being an ascended being is that you mustn't interfere with the lower plane of existence. This means that risen Daniel sees and knows how to help his old team, but he can't do anything about it. That said, freshly ancient Daniel finds plenty of ways to indirectly interfere during his time as an ascended being, as does the ascended ancient known as Oma Desala. For example, Daniel remains mentally present with Jack while he's tortured by Ball in the Season 6 episode Abyss.
Ball? As in bocce?
Daniel doesn't stop the torture, but he does give Jack the emotional and mental support necessary to survive until he can be rescued. That's against the rules. Then there's the fact that interference from an ascended being is supposed to be punished with retaliation against the mortal plane. But when Daniel later tries to warn Stargate Command about Anubis's attack against Abydos in Season 6, his punishment is to be returned to the mortal plane alive and well. The logic police must have been off that day.
I do believe this world is worth exploring, Daniel Jackson.
Season 2's The Fifth Race is one of the most important episodes of the series. In it, SG-1 discovers a strange repository of knowledge that belonged to the ancients, a long-gone species that invented the Stargates and are genetic ancestors to humans. Jack conveniently has a gene that makes it easier for him to interact with ancient technology, and as such, his head is swallowed by a hole in the wall that endows him with vast ancient knowledge. Sounds good, but not really.
It grabbed my head, I passed out, I came to, we're here, we're home. Can we go?
O'Neill has to use the knowledge to reach the Asgard homeworld so they can remove all of the information before it implodes his lowly Earth brain. After healing him, the Asgard explained to Jack that there were once 4 great races in the Milky Way galaxy: the Ancients, the Asgard, the Nox, and the Furlings. But while SG-1 go on to become allies with the Asgard, discover remnants of the Ancients, and occasionally interact with the Nox, they never really encounter the Furlings.
Nox? Asgard?
Furlings.
No, not those guys.
In Season 6's Paradise Lost, SG-1 comes across a piece of Furling tech, and the Furlings are fictionally depicted by Alien TV producer Martin Lloyd in Season 10's 200. But other than that, the Furlings are never mentioned. No matter how hard they try, the Earthling members of SG-1 can't set aside their biases. Even Jackson, the only non-militant member of the team and usually the only person providing an alternative point of view to O'Neill's military-centric judgments, attempts to force his own values and philosophies on alien civilizations. It's silly that so many of the civilizations they encounter deal with philosophical issues that are relevant to humanity on Earth, but that's science fiction.
Carter.
No, you can't keep him.
One of the most egregious examples of SG-1 failing to consider another way occurs in Season 1's The Nox. SG-1 hopes to capture a bug with the power of invisibility when they encounter System Lord Apophis and his Jaffa bodyguards. They ambush Apophis but are killed, only to wake up in the care of a gentle species called the Nox.
I felt that blast kill me. I mean, I thought we were dead, weren't we dead?
The Nox reassure them that weapons are unnecessary on their planet and that they'll be safe from the Goa'uld, but SG-1 won't believe it. SG-1 are so attached to the idea of violence as both the problem and the solution that they can't conceive of a society built on the idea of protection and renewal.